Alright, welcome to TriMet 101. Yes, somebody stole a bunch of the hair off of my head again. Today we're going to be talking about the Fall 2023 service changes. So let's begin with the improvements. We are now going to officially start seeing some of the forward together things that I talked about in previous videos. But let's start with other improvements that are not forward together related, but Line 8. There will be additional rush hour trips going to OHSU, providing additional service. Line 19's frequency will increase to operate every 30 minutes rather than every 40 or so. Line 35. This will now also operate every 30 minutes and will have something a little interesting. Trips will now alternate between using only Macadam, just like today's Line 35 does, and going via Terwilliger and serving the Lewis and Clark College. This means that the Lewis and Clark area will actually get bus service all day long from downtown Portland thanks to this Line 35 branch. So every other trip will serve these, so it'll be a little interesting, but yeah, alternating trips will serve they'll just stay on Riverside, Highway 43 or whatever, or they'll go to Terwilliger Boulevard and actually serve the college. Line 43, major increase to run every 30 minutes all day long, every day, rather than just rush hour only. Lines 44 and 78 will have weekend service restored to PCC Sylvania. Line 54, service is increased to true frequent service every 15 minutes. Finally! Line 54 has needed this for probably at least 20 years. The old way of doing things was, of course, to have it combined with the 56, so both lines ran independently every 30 minutes, and from Shoals Ferry and Beaverton Hillsdale Highway all the way into downtown Portland, you could get 54 or 56 every 15 minutes, so TriMet could sort of cheat their way through and call that frequent service. Even though the rest of Beaverton Hillsdale Highway didn't get that, they only got the 54 every 30 minutes. So this is a huge welcome upgrade. Line 56 will get increased hours to run a little later at night, and I believe to run a little more frequently in the morning. Line 94 service between Tigard and Sherwood will be increased to 20-minute frequency all day, every day. Okay, let's cover some transit service changes. Not necessarily improvements, but just changes to what is currently existing. Let's begin with Line 14, Hawthorne. Well, the name will be changing to be a little bit more accurate to 14, Hawthorne Foster. Oddly enough, I believe I suggested this in some random video, so either TriMet watched this video, or watched whatever video that was where I recommended that, and actually is putting that to use, or it was just a major coincidence. Line 19 will be moving off of the Ross Island Bridge, and instead will be using Tillicum Crossing for the Woodstock portion. Line 39 will now have new service south of Hillsdale, with service on Boone's Ferry, Stevenson, 35th, and Huber, and even the Barber Transit Center. Finally, more service to the Barber Transit Center. Also, the name will be changing from 39 Lewis and Clark to 39 Arnold Creek Hillsdale. Line 51 has a route change in downtown Portland, so instead of using Salmon Street all the way until 2nd Avenue, coming up 2nd Avenue, then coming back on Washington Street, sort of like serving the same stops as Line 15 on that part, now it will be ending at Goose Hollow. The route will also be extended beyond Southwest Dosh and Hamilton, and will continue down Sunset Boulevard, providing service that today's Line 55 serves on Sunset Boulevard, including service to Ida B. Wells High School, and continuing beyond there all the way until Southwest Bertha and Barber. Quite the extension. And yet again, another name change for that. Because of the extension, it will now be Line 51, Vista, and Sunset Boulevard. Lines 43 and 56. Service will be discontinued to downtown Portland, but will instead be rerouted into Markham Hill and OHSU. Finally, OHSU can be accessed all day long from the west side. You don't have to go into downtown Portland first. The Line 43 route has been adjusted quite a bit and will provide additional service on Barber Boulevard, including service to the Barber Transit Center, and taking over service on what's today Lines 39 and 65 through Southwest 19th and Spring Garden. I mentioned this earlier, but buses will run every 30 minutes and will run 7 days a week, which is a huge upgrade from today's rush hour service. Trips will no longer end at Washington Square Transit Center and instead opt for Tigard Transit Center to better connect with the west and for other reasons. Line 99. Southbound buses will now use Moody Avenue to better connect with Portland Streetcar and the South Waterfront neighborhood. Alright, apologies if my voice sounds really deep. Allergies are knocking me out, but I forgot to mention something in my video, so I'm having to kind of re-record this. But there are 3 transit centers that will be getting some operational changes. One of them is the Tigard Transit Center, which will of course have Line 43 instead of the 64 added and some other minor changes. Hollywood Transit Center is going to be closed for construction, so the buses are now going to be boarding at the sidewalk. And the Barber Transit Center also has operational changes because it now has 2 more buses serving it, lines 39 and 43, and the 39 will actually be ending there, even though 2 other bus lines will be going away. So still the same number of buses are serving it, but it will be operationally different. I don't know exactly what's going to happen to the existing Hollywood Transit Center buses and where exactly they'll park. There may not be a transit center anymore, so we might be -1 transit center, but we'll have to just keep tabs on that, and I'll keep you updated on what Hollywood Transit Center's future is. Alright, well, now for the more unfortunate side of the improvements. There are several services, or areas of service, more accurately, that are being discontinued. Let's start with Line 19. The branch that goes via 32nd and Rex will be discontinued. All trips will use 28th Avenue. Union Manor trips will still remain, so Line 19 via Union Manor will still exist. Line 36 will be canceled due to low ridership. It also uses almost the exact same route as Line 35 from the very start in downtown Portland all the way to Lake Oswego Transit Center. Line 39. So due to the route change, service on Palatine Hill Road to Lewis and Clark College will be discontinued. But Line 35 will be providing all-day service to this general area from Terwilliger with every other trip, as I talked about earlier. So it's a service loss for going directly into the college, but Line 35 gets you very close and will provide more service. So I feel as though that's more of a win than a loss. But Line 39's schedule will be reduced to better match the needs for Ida B. Wells high school students. Line 43 service east of Southwest Taylor's Ferry and Terwilliger will be discontinued due to the reroute to OHSU, and this includes service on Corbett Avenue. Fun fact, that entire stretch of Corbett Avenue very, very closely resembles an old streetcar route that went through this area, so it's kind of sad to see this canceled. But I again see the trade-offs here, and now 43 is going to run all day and into OHSU, so yeah, it's a service loss, but some areas of this neighborhood are really close to Barber Boulevard or Macadam Avenue, which are going to have all-day service anyways. Some of the areas are not quite as accessible, so yeah, but I suppose you can't serve everybody, so this just makes the most sense. Line 51 service to Council Crest will be reduced to 1 morning trip and 1 evening trip. So currently Line 51 kind of is a little weird because, with minor exceptions, the trips will start in Portland, then they'll go into Council Crest, then out of Council Crest, and then to Dosh and Hamilton, then out of Dosh and Hamilton, and back to Portland. But now, none of the trips are going to Council Crest at all, except for 1 morning school trip which begins there, and 1 evening school trip which ends there. So if you take service there, you will get stranded unless you know how to find the Line 51 again to get back. I have a video in the works that'll probably be a couple months down the road thanks to how many scripts I have, but it addresses an issue of removing service to this area, but that'll be later. Line 55. The second evening trip will be canceled to provide service for the high school students only. Line 51 will be providing service on Sunset Boulevard, so they'll actually be getting more service than what exists currently, which is pretty interesting. But most of the rest of Line 55 is on Hamilton Street, which is within walking distance of Beaverton-Hillsdale Highway, so having that second trip doesn't really seem necessary. So this means Line 55 will have some of the best service ever. One morning trip to Portland and one evening trip to Raleigh Hills. Line 94, service between Tigard and Portland, will be discontinued. Line 12 will continue to serve the Barber Corridor into downtown Portland, making all local stops. Unfortunately, this means that an already busy Line 12 will now get even more busy, because guess what? Line 94 gets used between Portland and Tigard. People use it. So just suddenly removing these buses is going to jam up these Line 12 buses. I know because I've been on them. Line 94 gets crowded, Line 12 gets crowded. Combine those and you have a recipe for being crammed in like sardines on a 40-foot bus. I really hope that sometime in the not too distant future, maybe over the next year or two, that additional Line 12 trips get created. Kind of like how there are extra Line 8 trips that will be going from Portland to Markham Hill. I think Line 12 needs it too. This is a consideration for a future light rail line. It's a busy corridor, and Line 12 already gets crowded. So I think it makes sense to add extra buses through this particular corridor. They would only need to go from Tigard Transit Center to downtown Portland, and maybe even only in peak direction. I would be fine with that. So long as you're providing buses every 7 to 8 minutes on this Barber corridor, I would be fine with that. I see it as nothing but an issue canceling the 94 service from Tigard to Portland. This was a huge one for me because Line 94 was fast. Yeah, sure, it's identical to the 12 in the sense that it runs the same route, but Line 94 only served a couple stops. So it was faster. That's why people used it. Lines 61, 64, 65, 66, and 68 are all being canceled, with all-day replacements on other bus lines. But I'll get into detail on that in about 5 seconds. Alright, let's get into the Markham Hill all-day replacements, and let's start with the 61. To get to OHSU, you can just take Line 54 out of Beaverton Transit Center, and then anywhere between Beaverton, Hillsdale, and Shoals Ferry, all the way to Southwest Capitol and Sunset, anywhere in between there, you can transfer to a Line 56, which will go up into OHSU. Line 54 will now run every 15 minutes, and Line 56 to OHSU will run every 30 minutes, all day long. Very nice. For Line 64 to Markham Hill, you can just board Line 43 service at Tigard Transit Center, Barber Transit Center, and Southwest Capitol and Sunset. If you want the service that goes on Southwest Capitol Highway, then you can use Line 44 on Capitol Highway and then exit at Southwest Capitol and Sunset to a Line 43, which will go the rest of the way into OHSU. For Line 65, you can just board Line 43, which services 19th Avenue, Spring Garden, Terwilliger. That's about it. For Line 66, for some reason in my script I wrote this one going toward Hollywood Transit Center and I didn't feel like rewriting it, so for Line 66 coming out of OHSU, you can just take a Line 8 bus and exit either in downtown at Pioneer Square or at Rose Quarter Transit Center, where you can transfer to MAX lines. If the goal is to get to Hollywood Transit Center, board a blue, green, or red line train and exit at Hollywood Transit Center. If you'd like Cesar Chavez Boulevard, then once you get to the Hollywood Transit Center, board a Line 75 bus. And if you want the Powell segment, then instead of taking Line 8 to Rose Quarter, exit somewhere in the downtown area and board a southbound Line 9. It'll go over Tillicum Crossing, and then you'll end up on Powell Boulevard. For Line 68, just again take line 8 out of OHSU, exit at Pioneer Square, and board a blue or a red line train back to Goose Hollow. If you need a destination that's somewhere on Jefferson or Columbia Street, then exit there and board your bus or walk. You have 6 more days to ride some of these bus routes, many of which run weekday rush hour only, so really you only have the rest of this week to do this, and starting this Sunday, August 27th, the new improvements will take effect, which begins the transition to Forward Together. Okay, technically line 70's change happened back in May, but that was really the only Forward Together change that's happened. This is the first big package of Forward Together improvements, of which we're only at the beginning of a multi-year thing for this project. So I'll be hopefully covering the rest of these service improvements from this point forward. Thank you for watching, and I will see you Wednesday.